Hi, I'm ED-SKaR, and in this video I'll be painting in the laziest way possible. I won't be deliberately painting badly, but I'm going to take no deliberate effort at all to make this paint job look good. The reason for this is what the models represent. A collection of spare parts, overrun 3D prints, and filling a gaming role that is very low value. On the tabletop, they will fulfill the role of a Strafbat squad, Strafbat being the Soviet version of a German word for a prison battalion. These models are prisoners. In between political prisoners, deserters and assaulted serving criminals, very flavourable, but not a particularly effective unit. As my World War II Kazakh army is part of the Union, I may as well use some spare parts to make a unit that's a little more interesting than just another rifle squad. Add to this that the rest of my army has been fairly quickly painted, these models will be painted with fewer steps even than them. As you might notice, the bodies are 3D printed, other than the greatcoat, which is a casting from my own sculpted body, and I looked at the kind of making new bodies a few weeks ago in a video, so if you want more information you can pop back there. The arms and heads are of course Warlord Games plastic parts that were left over, and an example of why I like the separate weapon kits that Warlord used to make, rather than the more recent guns moulded into hands nonsense that has taken over. Because these ones were separate, they can be left off, and that makes for some unarmed soldiers. As you can see, I have primed these grey, and I'm painting in the belts and pouches with a dark brown that was just left over on my wet palette from a previous paint job. This paint is partially polymerized, making it very thick and not particularly smooth, but these models aren't going to be my best, and so that's fine by me. Every now and again I add a little bit of some other colour, again just from the leftovers on the wet palette, to add to some variety without spending a lot of time. I did pick out most of the boots and the Ushankas, and there was just enough dark green for the two with helmets. The skin was then base coated with a light brown, and whilst the skin will get more effort than any other part of the model in this video, that's still going to be fairly quick and easy. For a quick colour filter, I throw down a heavy, messy, all-over coat of my custom ink wash. I make these washes somewhere in the region of a glaze, a wash, and a heavy wash, kind of like contrast or speed paint. And so these do pull into the recesses, but they also filter the colours in the raised smooth areas as well. In this case, the dark brown gives a much more suitable colour than the grey primer underneath, and yes, the biggest parts of these models will be the primer, plus a wash, and nothing else. I told you it would be low effort, and that is the big secret here. To give you an idea of why I'm being so messy and low effort, in Bolt Action, a tabletop wargame I quite like, each model and unit has a points cost, and when you choose the models you want to take, you total the cost, and if your opponent has the same number of points, you should have a fairly even matchup. An average soldier with a rifle costs 10 points. But these Strafbat aren't your average trained soldiers, so they count as inexperienced, which reduces that by 30% to 7 points per model. Then, as mentioned above, they don't have a rifle, and unarmed means that they are reduced again by another 3 points to 4 points each. And as if that wasn't enough, you can give them an extra rule called shirkers, and this makes them even worse, and they'll likely run away before they do anything of value, and the shirkers rule, once again another 3 points per model, to a total of 1. 1 point. It's so silly I had to make some. Now the squad does have to have 5 models with rifles and can have another 7 unarmed, so I'm just making those 7. I've actually already made one previously, so there's just 6 being painted in this video. With the wash dry, I'm painting up the skin. With the light brown base coat and the wash picking out the detail quite well, I just have to use a Caucasian paint mixed with the original light brown to make some highlights. Usually for skin I do 3 or 4 fairly subtle layers of highlighting to try and keep somewhat of a smooth look, but this time I'm just doing 2 layers, one with the mixed paint and the second one with just the straight Caucasian paint for the brightest points. And with that tiny amount of effort and no time at all, the models themselves are complete. And yeah, that's all of the painting effort that I'm going to put into them. They are 1-point models after all. But I do want to finish up the bases. Again, I have a video recently where I forego the fancy snow flocking that costs a lot and looks terrible in favour of some flour-based mud and dry brushed with just grey and white. If you can dry brush at least as well as I can, or preferably a little better, this makes for a really dusty looking light snow. I've been tempted to make footprints and wheel tracks and that kind of thing in this snow effect, but probably won't bother for these models. Between the painting of the models and the bases, these 6 models took about 45 minutes, or 7.5 minutes each. I wonder if that's my personal best for the fastest paint job I've ever done. I usually don't obsess over how long a paint job takes. I rather enjoy painting, especially a model where I spend longer on it. But it can also be fun to knock out a squad in an afternoon, in between cooking dinner and doing the laundry. Well, there are the Strafbat models complete. 1-point models for a tabletop wargame. As previously mentioned, the squad does need 5 models with rifles, and I have plenty of those, so I can field these immediately. If I had a game up soon, I would. And you can see my 30-minute speed painted rifleman compared to my 7.5 minute lazy painting from this video. Well, if you have anything to add to the low effort model painting, please add that to the comment section below. But for now, I can say, I'm ED-SKaR, always will be, and thank you very much for watching.